Okay, so we're going to move on to lesson 1, and we're going to talk a little bit about composition with this picture. All right, so this is the painting. This was my version of the finished painting. I measured it as 10 by 11, so it's almost square. The one I'm going to do today is not going to be square now. This is the actual photograph, and this is the two together. All right, so you can see the changes that I made. You can see, can you see my cursor? Can you see that? Okay, so so you can see that there's not as much space here as there is here, and really I could have dug out a little bit more there, but I kind of wanted that tree to move over a little bit. So that was kind of a subconscious, conscious thing that I did there. So let's talk about composition. When I took the photograph, I didn't want to, I didn't think it'd make a good painting for compositional reasons. And don't ask me why now, because it turned out just fine. But somebody said I should paint it because there's so much significance to this little tree. We've had such high waters with Lake Michigan. The fact that it was still standing at the end of the winter was amazing. And then the following week, it's starting to fall down now. So, so I took this picture a week and a half ago, 10 days ago. And it was all about just documenting how, I mean, the beach was way out here before, way out there. I mean, much further than even that. The picture doesn't even show. It was way out there. So, some of the elements of this picture, one of the things that all of my students know, Sharon, and you might know too, is something called the rule of thirds, right, guys? So the rule of thirds is you don't want to cut your painting in half, because then you got two halves fighting each other. You want it to be either about the land or about the sky in this kind of a painting, in a landscape, waterscape. And so, of course, there's not much happening in the sky, but we have this tree here. So I didn't know what to do, but what I did was I cut it off, and it worked. It worked. I mean, who knew? But I knew that the horizon had to be at 2/3. Now we can break that rule sometimes, but okay. So that's one thing that really works with this composition. And so I moved this up. And the other thing that I did was, that this has a couple of things. One thing that can really work, there are different elements that really work in composition. And one of them is a C. If you have a C, a visual, some kind of a C, and this has a lot of them. It has this one, it has this one, it has this one, and then it has kind of this whole big thing. So a C is a really strong composition. Another thing that this has that I didn't even recognize consciously is, what happened? Oh, look at this. Now you're seeing everything. It just decided to do that. I don't know why it's doing this, guys. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. Let's see. I will do this from the current slide and hope that this, there we go. So chalk that up to inexperience. So is a V, and look at all the V's here, and look at the V here. So you got a C, you got a V, you got diagonals. Diagonals are another good thing. So it's got a lot of elements that make it work. The other thing that I knew with the rule of thirds, it not only is thirds going across, even though this line moves in, it becomes, you know, it's pretty much the thirds. You want to think about, where is your third coming vertically? Where is this third coming? Your vertical line. And so here's 1/3, and here's 1/3, kind of, sort of. And then if you go across this way, your focal point is going to be like right in here, where the intersection of the thirds are. Here's an intersection of a third, here's an intersection of a third, and kind of works. Your eye kind of does go there, right? So when you look at it, your eye goes here at first, and then you see. Okay, so that was one thing. Another thing is we're going to start then, actually, we will start right now creating this. And what we're going to do is be working with, hopefully you have your, I'm down here, hopefully you have your picture printed out and up. It's always good to have it up either next to or just above. Oh, good, Julie, thank you. All right, so you've got your picture, so you don't have to keep looking at the computer, right? You've got your own frame of reference, and I can talk. And when my head is turned away, you don't hear it as loudly, but can you understand me? Did you understand when I'm talking so I don't have to yell? Okay, and I took my my migraine pills, so the lights, because if I have the light off, I mean, hello, I'm not there at all. So gotta have a light. So, and I have these, so it's working. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is establish where our third is, and hopefully you have nearby a ruler because you want this to be level. Now, if you notice, looking at the computer again, this is water is always level. Your line where the water is level. Over here, the trees get bigger as they come closer, so it goes up, and they get bigger. If we could see the bottom of them, they go down. And actually in mine, I didn't have the hill as tall cutting off the trees because I wanted that perspective, right? So this is actually getting larger, and this line that's level over here is actually moving down just a little bit as the trees get bigger. But the center of the trees, if you look at that, is pretty level with this over here. So when we make our line, and we'll do it in pastel, not with pencil. You don't need anything with pencil. No pencil drawing with this one. You're going to make your line all the way across, but understand when you get over here, it's going to be the midpoint of the trees because the trees are getting bigger up and down. All right, so find the 1/3 place on your paper and make 3 dots going across. In 7th grade geometry, I learned 3 dots make a straight line. So, and if your dots don't make a straight line, then you kind of figure out which one's wrong. All right, so I'm going to do mine, and I'm going to make it with we're going to do a dark blue first for the trees. So I'm just going to make my line with a dark blue. So first I'm going to measure. Yeah, and I'm 16, so it's going to be 5 1/3 for me. I don't know what it is for you. And close to it, right? 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to make my line and hope that this is straight. I'm going to check. Yeah, this one's down too low. Check them, because it does make a difference. Anybody with a good eye, and especially you as you develop your eye, if you don't get that first composition, and it just can be a light line, it doesn't have to be, if you don't get that first composition, it's going to bother you forever. Get the drawing right to begin with. All right, so we're going to make the trees with that color, but the sky is something different. So notice that in the photograph, the sky has a little pinkish cast down here, and I kind of did that over here. And it's a beautiful blue here. And if you have your, we want to try, always try to start with our hard pastels, the new pastels. And for some of you, that might be all you have. For some of you, all you have is Rembrandt. So we work with what we have. But the new pastels have a light blue, right? And there's a cornflower blue. Depending on your set, there are a couple of different cornflower blues. I'm not sure I've got a couple of cornflower. Well, they look like the same one. Okay, so the cornflower blue is going to be too dark, and the light blue is going to be too light. So what we're going to do is you always start with the darker. And if you've got new pastels, we break them. It's not like crayons where the whole carton is ruined because one crayon broke. We are going to break them because we work with all different sides of them. And right now, we're going to be putting in this whole expanse. Don't worry about the tree will go in later. We're going to work with this whole expanse, and we're going to do more of the dark at the top than at the bottom because we're going to lighten it up. So, and also realize that, well, and you could do this a little bit of just a little bit of a guideline. Know that you're going to start over here with the sand dunes, and it goes about, and I'm looking at the photograph now, I'm not looking at my painting because I've got a different dimension this time than I had what I was working with before. So it runs along the sand dunes, run along, and then become trees. I told you.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you show a close-up of your page?
Of my, oh yeah, okay. I'm gonna go off of sharing. Yes, thank you very much. Okay, now, am I big on your screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Julie. So I'm just going to go along here, and then I know that the trees are going to be getting bigger. And now I'm looking up at my photograph. As I'm doing this, I'm looking up. My eyes are going up and down. That's going to be the top of the trees. And let's see, we're gonna, probably the little tree is, we wanted it about 1/3, just to mark the space, so I know where that is. And the other tree, let's have that be at 1/3 too. So, well, that might be a little much, maybe the end of it. So we're just gonna mark it so we know what we're doing, just so we know where things are. And then I want the trees to kind of get a little bigger. So I'm probably going to do it like that. So you can already see some perspective here, right? Now, the other thing that you can mark right away, and I would do it maybe with a lighter blue, is where the lake is going to come. And that little tree is at 1/3, and the lake, the bay comes just before it. So I'm just going to, and then it kind of goes out a little bit there, and that makes it really interesting, that shoreline. And then I'm just going to do that with it for now. Now, part of that's beach, part of that's lake. All right, can you see that? Can you see what I did? Is that showing? Yeah. And I'll tip it down when I get down further. All right. Is that more helpful? Okay. I'm supposed to be getting lights soon that will hopefully make it even better. All right. So first thing we're going to do, now we have it scratched in. We know where our trees are going to be, and you know, there are going to be several of them. Okay, and we're not going to see these lines in a little while, but for right now, for our purposes, just so we have an idea where things are, and the rest of it will all take shape. Okay, and by the way, I was pretty sure we were going to be able to do a full painting in a class when we did 3 hours. With 2 hours, we might finish this one on Friday. Okay, so it'll be part 2 of the little Valiant little cottonwood tree. All right. So with pastels, usually, as with oils, it's really good to work dark to light. So I'm going to take my cornflower blue, and I'm going to use the side of it, the broad side of it, and I'm just going to start doing this, and a little lighter at the bottom, but I am going down to the bottom, just not pushing it hard. And I'm going sideways. Notice as you do this, your eye is going up to the picture and down. All right. All right. So now we got that. We're not going to do anything more right now with this, but put it on your little tray so that you can pick it back up again, because we go back and forth with colors. Okay, now I'm going to take my light blue and I'm going to go over that. And I'm going to go over it more at the bottom, just above where the dunes and the trees start. Heavier at the bottom, so I press harder, and not as heavy up above. So there's less light and more light down at the bottom. So it's the opposite of what you did with the cornflower blue, where you press harder at the top. All right? And we're going sideways because if you look, there are some clouds there and they do go sideways. And you want your stroke to do whatever the object is doing. So you want to make sure that you do that. And go all the way to the edge, because you cut your paper to fit your frame. So go all the way to the edge, get those edges at the top. Okay, now comes the blending part. And well, before you blend, actually, you might want to take, there's a pink. All right, this looks whiter than it is. The light is making it look white, but this is a pink. And I'm going to do the pink down at the bottom, and I need to break it shorter because I don't want the pink to go up too high. And notice it's a pretty dark pink, so we're going to have to work with that. And the pink should go straight across, so you want the top of the pink to be straight across, kind of. Lighter touch as you go up. All right, and that's a little bit bright for what we want, so I'm going to go over it again with the light blue to tame it down, and it tames it right down. I'm going on top of that pink. Now it's not even at all, and I've got spots and things that aren't looking good. There are a lot of white spots. So now we're going to fix that by blending with our fingers. Now, if you're concerned about toxins, wear latex gloves. If you're concerned about burning off your finger, the pads of your fingers, latex gloves are good. Or you could use paper towel, or some people use styrofoam peanuts to blend. And so you could use something else, but I use my fingers. And when I'm doing a large area, I do like all four of them at once. And then when I'm doing small area, you'll see I use different fingers for different colors, and I have to look at my fingers to make sure I'm not, So I'm going to use all my fingers. I'm going to start at the top, and I'm going to blend it in. Now, because I went sideways with my strokes, if I go sideways right now, it's going to make it streaked, and I don't want it streaked. So I'm going to blend it in, and then I'm going to go up and down, so it gets to be in around, so it gets to be more of a unified color. Doesn't have to be completely. And I'm doing the top first. I'm doing all one color first, not the pink yet. And I'm going up and down, and I'm going around. And we can smooth it out however we want to. And I'm seeing areas that are blotchy. I'm going to come back with whatever I need to fill that in and blend it so it's not blotchy. And I'm moving down, and I am actually making contact with 3 fingers. This is too pink, so I'm going to go over it again with more light blue. All right, so it's not done by any means. It's begun. And really, if you've got a problem with your painting, it's just not finished. Don't judge your paintings. We all do that. Okay, so now look at what you got, and where it isn't the way you like it, like I've got some blotchy dark blue here. I'm going to take some of the light blue and put it over it to smooth out that color. Actually, the light blue on it is looking pretty darn good, so I might do that a lot. Here's a tip for a composition. The corners, if you can have your corners be a little bit darker, it brings the eye towards the center of your painting. So leave your corner a little bit darker as you're putting your light blue on. And it's going to take me a minute. Mine is bigger than yours, so go ahead and do what you need to do to get it the way you want it. But we want it a little darker on top, getting lighter to the bottom. Without any real streaks showing, because we'll put those and if you picked up your like I just did, your navy blue, your line, your dark blue line, you can just go over that and it'll go away. That's why we love pastels. So going across, first thing is to get even color, and then we can go back and adjust. And you might have to push kind of hard. Mine's a mess too right now, so don't worry. Not perfect. It's a process. And if you're done before I am, because mine is bigger, go get a drink of water or something. Put the baby in the bed. So here's the good news. It might take you a little longer because you're new at this, some of you. And it might take me, it might take me a little longer because mine's so big. Oh, heck, stay up there. And again, as I come over to the corner, I want to leave a little darker at the top. Okay, so I have a nice sky blue color now. It's not varied too much. If I want it a little darker, I can go back with the cornflower blue. If you want to do that, you can. You want to do all those adjustments before you do the trees, because once you put the trees in, you know. So just keep doing what you're doing. I'm going to make my mine a little darker at the top. So I'm putting my cornflower blue back in. And that's the thing. You just keep going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until you get it the way you want it, or what agrees to you. Sometimes, you know, some of it is surrendering to the medium. You kind of let the pastel do its thing to a point and say, "Oh, I really like what that just did," and it's like totally surprising. And that's part of the creation, is that it's out of your control, and that's okay, because it might be a good thing. Okay, all right. And so now I want it to be lighter as we get towards the bottom. I want it to be really light towards the bottom of the sky. Because that atmosphere does that, right? And I'm not going to blend so much down here. All right. I kind of like the way that looks. Not as blended. The pinks are there underneath. I might try, let me try this first. Well, it's going to turn it yellow. I don't want to do that. I think I'm just going to leave it If you have a lighter pink, you might want to go in with, oh, this is, I think I went in with a peach. Yep, because it's lighter. I'm going to go in with this peach, and this is still new pastels. Oh, look at that. Yep, that's what you want to do. Just go straight across, and there's a point where it won't be peachy anymore, where it's just towards the bottom. And now we're getting where the atmosphere begins to not be quite so blended. And that has a more realistic look. And that cloud up there it looks like it's white, but my students know that really nothing is really white. So I'm going to take this peach and I'm going to work on that cloud that's behind the tree. I'm not going to make it too low, but I'm just going to go real lightly with it. And then there's some more down here. And I'm just gonna take my fingers, and I don't want to totally blend it in. Kind of has a nice cloudy touch. Sound like Bob Ross, a happy little cloud, right? All right. And you may want to add your own touch to this as far as color goes. You may want to experiment with some other things and see what works well for you. It will be fun to see everybody's painting, and hopefully nobody's looks exactly like mine. That's not what we're going for. We're going for creativity, right, Therese? Yeah. Okay. Give you another minute. I'm going to get a drink of water, and then we will start with our sand dunes, and we will move over and do our trees over here. We go top down, and then we will do the water over on the right. How are we doing? Okay, we ready to do the sand dunes? Not quite, Julie? Yeah? Okay, Sharon? All right. Okay, good. All right, so we do light over dark, and that will work with the sand dunes too. What we can do is put the trees in as if there's no sand, and then we'll put the sand on top of the trees, and it will work. Okay, so and notice also there's a line of beach. If you look at your picture, we'll put that in after we do the rest of it. In fact, even after, when we're doing the water, we'll do the water up to that little spot, and then we'll put the beach line in. Okay, we won't do it right now because otherwise we'll be doing it again and again. All right, so we're going to put the trees in, and if you look at those trees, they're not green. And if you look at my painting, well, you can't see my painting, but they're not green. They might be, what color? Anybody? They're more, the trees are more turquoise, right? So, and we start from dark to light, and the mistake a lot of beginners make is they don't go dark enough. And then they're done with their picture, it has no depth, it looks kind of flat. So we are going to go with your darkest blue in New Pastel, if you have New Pastel. And the darkest blue isn't very, very dark. So what we're going to do is do the dark blue, and then we're going to put some black in there, and then actually, let's start with our black. Let's start with, go ahead and get the black. Keep your dark blue to the side. Get your black. And so let's look at the picture first and analyze this. The trees are all evergreens. It's obviously it's winter. They're all evergreens, and evergreens have little points at the top, and they are more pointed and up and down. Whereas deciduous trees, Jenna, you just did a picture with deciduous trees, and they're more rounded. So when you're doing from a distance, your strokes are going to be rounded for deciduous trees, but for evergreens, you're going to have more of an up and down kind of a scribble, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start real small over at the sand dunes, over at the edge here with the black. I promise you it won't end up black. With the black, and start real small, and really over here, I'm gonna do it sideways because it's so far away. I'm doing it sideways, and I'm to the point of the little, just before the little tree, I'm going to start going up and down because you can see those little pinpoints there. So I'm going to start going up and down, and I'm staying along my horizon line, up and down. And I'm moving along up and down. Some of them are taller than others. It can be messy because nature is messy. Nature's not perfect, and I'm getting bigger now as I'm halfway through. And I'm going above and below my line now. And I'm going to start making these triangle up and downs bigger. And even over here, you can still be going up and down, but some of them are going to be taller than others. And we're going to go all the way to the end where they're the biggest. Just a bunch of scribbles. That's all my paintings are. Just scribbling in the different spots with different values, different hues. All right, now, these trees all have a structure. So, you know, I didn't go to art school and college and learn about all these things, but I know they teach these things because you've got to give your trees structure, and the ones that are closer to you have more structure than the ones that are further away. So if you look at that picture, that photograph, and you see that behind the large cottonwood to the left, you see that that pine tree there that's sticking up between the different trunks. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to take the edge, a corner edge of your pastel, and you're going to go over where you think that that's going to happen. And you're going to use the edge, and you're going to come up on the edge like that and lift off. And that's going to be your trunk, and it doesn't have to be absolutely straight because believe me, they're not. Okay? And you lift off at the top, and that gives it a nice natural feel rather than being chopped off. All right, now you're going to notice that this is a pine tree. It's going up. Fir trees go down. You learn things as an artist, right? Just from observation. So what you're going to do is from the center of you're not going to go from the outside in. You're going to go the way they grow, from the inside out. And from the center of your pine tree, you're going to make one go up on this side, one go up on this side, and they don't have to match. And you're going to make it, if you look, that towards the top, they almost come to the top, but not quite. So you're going to make some branches, and you're going to lift off, and you're going to make some smaller branches. And if they get too tall, then you make your center trunk taller. I'm telling you, my paintings are full of mistakes that I made, not mistakes. So if they get a little bit too tall, then you make your big trunk taller. And they all kind of come up at the same angle. And You can go all the way down, although it's not really going to show at the bottom. But we know it's there. Okay, and now you can fill that in doing the same thing off of the individual branches, just a little bit, because we are doing black after all, and we don't want a lot of it, but just enough to give it some depth. And I'm doing little scribbles now, going back and forth and back and forth all the way down. All right. All right, so now there are some other trees. You can put some other trees in. There's one that's kind of more rounded. That's probably a jack pine. So I'm going to do one that's more rounded. And then I see another one here. Going to go up, not as big because we're further away. And that one kind of goes out more. It looks more like a white pine. Doesn't quite kind of go up as much. It goes out more. And now I see a more rounded one. So I'm just going to go up and around from the center. And now they're getting smaller. And I'm going to start hinting at trees here. Still using the side of my pastel, that side edge. And I think my painting got smaller too fast, so I'm going to lift these up a little bit. My eye is going up and down and up and down. I'm looking up at the picture and then down at my drawing. I don't get tunnel vision where I'm just looking at what I'm doing. I'm constantly referencing back and forth and back and forth. And so we're just sketching in these trees where they are, and kind of doing little zigzag scribbles for some of them that are more, showing more than others. But the tree line, the top of it begins to get more and more the same until we get over to the other side of our little tree, and then it's just pretty much what we already did. Okay, so interestingly, you've already got some perspective, right? It's already taking shape. You can start to see, this is getting interesting. And here it is, just blue, black and blue, pretty much, bruises. Okay, all right, now we're gonna take our blue, the darkest blue that you have. We work from dark to light, like I said, and really, you kind of want to go over everything you just did, but not every spot. You want to, so it's got some texture to it, right? You want to leave a little bit of black here and there, but mostly you're going to go over with this. So we're going to start over here, over at the right. And I'm just and I'm making it a little bit bigger than my black, a little bit taller, just a little bit, because the tops of the trees are lighter because of the light, right? It's all about the light. And as you get to some trees with structure, you're going to pause and you'll go over that structure. Just kind of scribble it. Don't be too careful. Don't be too perfect. Nature's not perfect. And if it's too perfect, it won't look real, amazingly enough. Make sure you go back and get down to the bottom, but not as much. Okay, and if you want some of your trees to stand out a little more, you do a little bit heavier with the lighter color, but we'll be putting more lights on top of this, so. How are we doing on time? Okay, in about 10 minutes, we're gonna walk away and come back. We'll take a 5-minute break. And if it gets too thick, you can go in and I'll talk to you about that later. This is where we could use some music. And if your scribbling gets bigger than what you already had done there, that's fine. It's okay. We go with it. And now you're getting so that you're going to be filling in most of the white area that wasn't filled in with the black. You're going to have that filled in, most of it, with this. Now my eyes are going up. I'm looking up at my picture, especially as I'm getting closer to these trees. And like I say, it's going to be too thick and it's not going to be feathery enough for that one tree that's the closest. And we're going to go back in with our sky color and fix that. But first we got to get these in. We fix a lot with pastels. It's wonderful. You can't do that with watercolors. Well, there'll be people who say you move your mistakes around and kind of do this, but not in my experience. All right. How you doing? Good. All right. Now, turquoise. You have a turquoise? All right, let's study our picture again. Okay. This isn't going to be solid because if it's solid, then you won't see in between the branches, it's darker. So we're not going to do it solid. We're going to do strokes kind of like we did with the black. This looks a little greener, this tree down here, and there's some green. We'll probably come in with some yellow because yellow on top of blue or gold makes green, right? So I guess I lied about no green. But also, here's the thing. With distance, as things, to make something look farther away, you take out the yellow. Beaches farther away become whiter, like looking at islands that are out there. Trees become bluer, the yellow goes. So as we come forward, we might be adding more of a green, all right? But right now, and there's more blue back here, but we're gonna do a little bit, just little, and it's just little over here. I'm just dotting it. And I'm using the square edge, and I'm just dotting here, over here, just to give it a little texture over there. I don't have to worry about the up and down until I start getting towards my line for the water, and we begin to see the up and down. And now I'm using the corner edge. I'm not doing it everywhere. And I'm moving kind of quickly, and I'm moving, pushing a little harder some places than others. You'll notice this particular pastel is a little softer. It leaves a little more on the paper than the other two. So you can actually dig in and really leave some lights there. And then other places you won't. But you want the lights to be underneath the branches is dark, on top of the branches is light, because the light hits that and then the shadows underneath. So, and look at that, I made a boo-boo, and isn't that nice, because we're all gonna learn from my mistakes. So now I'm going up and down, and I'm kind of doing my my tree thing, which is I'm going to demonstrate it over here. Here we've got this, and we've got this. I do this kind of a thing to make a pine tree. Can you see that? So I go up, and then I do this, and then I do this to make a pine tree. You see that? I'll do it again. I go up, and then I start at the top, and I do that, and that, and that. Bigger one side than the other, bigger one side, and then the other, like that. Cinchy poo. Okay. I didn't really say that. I've never said that in my life till now. Could get into some really bad habits. I'm mumbling to myself. Okay, now you're going to do some things now that are going to be lighter than you want. So I actually by mistake took my cornflower blue, and that's going to be a nice one for later, Linda. All right, I'm going to go back with my darker blue over the one that I don't like, and even with my black to bring it back into balance. And it actually made it nicer. So you're going to be going back and forth now with some of these trees with the colors that you've already used. It's part of the process. And I'm actually using my cornflower blue now as well. Since I picked it up, it looks pretty good in a few spots. So I just keep my pastels in my hand, and I pick up, go back and forth as I'm moving along. And remember, as you get closer, don't get too heavy with one color. It's real easy to get heavy with the color that's in your hand now. And then you lose what you already had, and you go back and bring it back in. Now look at this. Can you see this? And you can do it too. It can be real heavy. And you might not want that. So then you go back, and because you don't want to pull the eye away from your focal point. We're just doing background right now. Okay, now as we get towards the front, none of these trees are really bright and light. None of them. So we just want to touch. Just a touch here and there. Not too much light. They're all dark purple because we're looking into the sun, right? If you're standing on the beach, you have to ask yourself, if I'm standing there, that's plein air thinking, is if I'm standing there and the camera is not looking into the sun, it's going to be less contrasty, so it won't be quite as black. It'll still be dark though, because I'm looking into the sun. Okay, hopefully you've got a lot of scribbles, because that's what makes it look wild. Okay, now you're going to go back with your dark blue, and where it's too bright, you're going to darken it a little bit so that we keep the eye moving towards our focal point, which is not these trees. We don't want to draw the eye away. Get some of your pine tree points in there. You can, as you come closer, you can make some new points coming up. Just a single line, just coming up just a little bit above the others is all that you need. Okay, it's not completely filled in with white yet. Now there's a medium green that looks like a Kelly green from St. Patrick's Day. And like I say, when it's far away, it's more blue. So we're not going to use it there, but just try it lightly and see if you like it. Just a little bit here and there. Just a little bit, not everywhere. Especially as you're coming closer where the light's going to hit, but just a touch. All right. Am I going too fast? Okay, it should still be messy, not perfect. All right, because we're not done. So I've got all those in my hand. Now, everybody that's taken lessons from me knows what I'm going to do next. Purple. Just a touch. Everything that nature creates has a touch of all three primary colors. There needs to be a little bit of pink or red, a little bit of yellow or green, and a little bit of the blues. So the primary colors. So by using the purple, we're starting to go more towards the red, and this will pick up, and also notice that you're going to match the values. So it's kind of this purple that is not a real dark purple. That'll be something that I'll recommend that you order separately later on. For right now, this is kind of a medium value, so you're not going to put it where you want your real darks or your real lights. It's just kind of here and there a touch, just a touch of purple here and there. And I'm just going to just do little dot, 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 dot. Not all the way because it's going to turn more blue there, but just little dibble dabbles. Wow, another weird word I've never said before. All right, and I'm doing it more towards the bottom than the top as we get closer, just a little bit, just a touch. And a little more as you get closer. Just a touch. Okay, and then I'm going to take our pink that we had before. Now we're starting to get to the lights. Before we go to the yellows, let's just do a little bit of that, and that can be more at the top. Very light, and it can be all the way over. Very lightly. Real light, just a touch, just a smattering. I'm just going along, and now I'm using the whole side, and just look at that. Far away, it gives it that far away effect where it's not quite as bright. Okay, and then as we get closer, just a little bit here and there. Not a lot, just moving along. And down the whole tree as I get closer. And I did a little bit too much. So I'm going to go back and fix that with a little bit of dark and break it up. You can go back and break that pink up with your darks. So it's not big marks, smaller marks. Go back and break it up till you have the balance that you want. So I'm going back over what I've already done. And we will put the dunes in. So, and we will use that pink. All right. Now, judiciously, here's this gold. And if you look to the left of the little tree on the photograph, there's that big pine tree sticking up. Wherever your first big pine tree is, take this on, well, on its side is probably too much. Just do it on the one edge, and just a little on an angle, and see what that does. Not on every tree, on some of the trees. If it's too yellow for you, go to your greens. Go to your light greens. This is a time to try different things. do what sings to you. But notice how the layering of the light over the dark begins to make it look like a painting. It begins to look like a painting. So I'm just doing my triangle thing. I'm not going to do all of them, just some of them, just here and there. Okay. Now I'm going to take the light green, yellow green, and see if I like that. It's pretty light. As you get closer, it's better on top of your blues. And we're getting away from our turquoises, so we'll go back and put turquoise back in, but it's kind of cool. I'm going up the center and then I'm going out. Okay, it's 1:06, break time. All right, 5 minutes. I know you're in the middle of it. Take your pastels, all of the ones that are in your hand, and put them in a little pile on your tray or someplace. Okay, now, hands. This is where you want your wipes. Before you wash your hands, you use your wipes. All around every finger, thumb, everything. Because you don't want this going down your drain. All right, now I'm gonna wash my hands. See you in 5 minutes. Let's make it 1:11. Get up, walk away. Even if you want to keep working, walk away from your easel. It's going to be better for you if you do. Get some distance, take a look at it, and then walk away completely. I'm going to mute myself. Hey, Peggy, glad you're here. I can't see you though. If you could, on the right-hand side, enable your video. Next to, if you hover your cursor over on the right, and there are 3 dots, and I might say enable video.
Start video.
There you are.
Well, actually, I had to work this.
Hold on, I've got you muted. Go ahead. Hi. Up. I can't hear you. Hold on. Oh, you're muted, Peggy. You take your.
Okay.
I can't hear.
There we go.
You go.
Okay, so I had to work this morning until 12:30, so I'm just getting home and I'm watching you guys, and then I'm gonna have to start over again later. But I wanted to at least watch you for the original, and so
Okay.
see all my friends on there.
Yeah. Teresa's here.
I
and
know.
Laura's here. Yep.
I love it.
Yep. Yep. Okay. So I'm going to mute you because there's feedback. But
Gotcha.
if you want to be unmuted, you can. I think you can unmute yourself too. You can raise your hand. There's nobody's chatting. There's a chat. Oh yeah, they are. They're chatting. I don't have my chat thing up. Jan, your screen is blank. Oh, I'm sorry. That's terrible. I don't know what the problem is. Jan's having all
Can I
kinds
say just one thing? I just want to say, Linda, that you're doing an awesome job.
Ah, thank you. How long have you been watching? Because, you know, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. I think it's good for our mental health, right? So it's 1:11 and we are back. So I am going to screen share. Hold on. And I want to, okay, here we go. I'm going to go back to share. I'm going to go back here. And so look over here at this painting and see what we're doing. See the cornflower blue up there? And this is actually a little more faded up here. I'm not quite sure. And then these are have more green in them forward. These are more bushes that are coming forward towards the beach. You see that? So so we can take some green, take some yellows, but notice it's not solid. See the dark in there too? So you can take some greens, and in front of this row of trees now, you're going to start building the bushes that come forward towards the beach all the way to this point. Okay, so we can do that, and then after we're done with that, then we're going to go back and put in the sand dunes, because we got to have the sand dunes, right? All right, I'm going to stop sharing that. All right, and there we are. Okay, so now I'm looking at my photograph, and my photograph is not showing those bushes coming forward, but we know that those are there. And I think they add interest. And so we can take a little bit of darks here and come forward just a little bit. Actually, I want to use the dark that you have. I have all kinds of darks, but I want to use what you have. Is that the darkest blue?
Linda?
Yes.
Your screen moved and we can't see what you're doing.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I know my head gets in the way, and I'm sorry about that. Okay. So I'm going to take the darkest blue that I have, and I'm going to move forward just a little bit. Even though it's not on the photographs, I'm on some bushes here. Because I'm going to be moving the tree. The tree is going to be moving to the right, more towards the 1/3 point. So I'm going to take my darkest blue and put some bushes in here in front of, and even going over the bottoms of my pine trees, right? Because those bushes do that. And all the way over until we get about to where the water starts. Okay, now I'm going to take my turquoise, and that's pretty light. I'm going to take some black and get that a little darker, because if it's too light, like I said, we look like novices, and we're not novices. We've had some art lessons. Nobody here is a novice. So you got to have some depth in there. You got to have some dark. And it gets bigger as we get closer, right? It gets a little bigger. It's going to come down a little bit, move up a little bit as it gets closer for perspective. All right, now, what green shall we use? Because they are going to be green. When I did the other painting, I used everything that I had, but I'm not going to do that here. Let's see how this looks. Pretty, it's not bad. So this is a medium green. It's not the It's a little bit of more of a yellow green than what I was using before, but it's not the real light one. And on top of that blue with a light touch, just a little here and there, look at that. It's just a little scribble scrabble. And if it's a little too green, we can change that. But you don't want it to be solid. You just want it to be little marks. We still want it to be kind of dark back here because, again, this is not our focal point. And you can put a little bit of pink in there. You want to have a little bit of the opposite color on the color wheel. The opposite of green is red, so the opposite of lighter green is pink. Just a touch, not much. And if it's too light, go to purple. It's too light for me. I'm going to a little bit of purple. Everybody knows how I love purple. And if it looks a little bit blah to you, then get your gold that we had before. This is our palette, right? What was in our hand before, that's our palette. And we're going to use a lot of those colors again and again. And this is really just background, and you can fool around with it later. Try different textures. They're junipers and things like that. And if you're not in northern Michigan, painting northern Michigan, I'm going over this with my yellow-green again. Painting northern Michigan kind of makes you feel like you're here. And by making it a little lighter, you're bringing it forward. Yellow-green brings some of that yellow in, and it fades off in the distance, but not completely, because we're going to take that lighter pink and bring it over there. Okay. It's okay. You know, I would spend more time on it, honestly, but I want to move along to the other elements of this lovely image that we have in front of us. Okay, and we're going to do the sand dunes. Now, notice that the sand dunes you have, they're only on the top. The trees fringe it at the bottom, and there's not very much. It's just the top, and you're going to take your pink. Yes, your pink. And because we're going to go dark to light, we're not going to leave it pink. It'll be more peachy, goldy. But we're going to do a little pink, and you're going to cut in on your trees a little bit. Okay, just a little bit. And go above your trees a little bit almost until you get to the end. Now, yes, we're going to go back and redo our trees a little bit. But we're taking our pink. And the sand dunes, they kind of are wobbly on top, so they go kind of curvy up and down and up and down. And I don't just do a line, because that's drawing. We're not drawing, we're painting. So I do a little bit of just coloring, like if it were a crayon. All right. And now I am going to take the peach and go over that, color right over, and more on the top, and not everywhere. More on the top, not everywhere. And now I'm going to take the gold, not everywhere, because we want to have that feeling of many different colors. And now I'm going to take a little purple and do it more. Notice that the dunes have a little bit of a tree covering that you can see through. That's where your purple will do that for you. Very lightly. And that's too heavy, so I'm gonna go back. So it came on too heavy. And I'm gonna go back with my gold and scratch around in there, little tiny marks. And the gold, more gold at the top. What you're doing is you're just giving it a little interest. And notice we haven't even gone to the Rembrandts. We can. And that might be a little bit too, if it's too gold and the other pink is too pink, you might want to go to the peach. I'm not sure where mine went, so might want to go to the peach, but don't make it solid. It's pretty light, but it works. So don't make it solid, more along the top, little marks, little coloring. And if it looks too light, then you go back in with your other colors and you bring it to where you want it. And if it's too bare at the top and you want to bring those trees in, I would go with a dark turquoise, if you have it. And go towards the top of the trees and just little up and down zigzag along the edge of your trees on top of the dune there. And then just blend it in a little bit and you'll have what you want. Now, as we come towards more towards the center, the trees go up until you hardly see the dune at all, and then it's just trees. I probably made the dune longer than it is, but I don't care. You have to like not care about some things. Give up on perfection. You think, well, it's art, it has to be perfect. No, it's art, it has to be messy. Nature's the best artist of all and very messy. Okay. How are we doing? Yeah? Let me get a drink of water. I promise you it's water. Nothing stronger. I don't drink alone. This is going to be a real interesting time to see who drinks alone. Who doesn't? Okay. Little macabre humor here. Water. All right. Now, if you look at the line that I made, I'm coming way down here, and really that's what the beach is doing here. So my water, I've got this wave. We've got this wave here, but the watercolor really comes past the wave and comes down on the beach here. And everything, the water is sideways. Everything is sideways with the water except for the waves, okay? And so when you get water, even with waves, further out, you go sideways with the horizon. And then as it comes closer, it starts to take on the angle of the waves, all right? And we are going to go, again, dark to light. So if you look at the water and see what's the darkest, it's way at the back. In front of that strip of beach, which you can put in later when you're done with the water. So we're going to take, I would take the darkest blue. That's what I do, because you can build on that. So we're going to take your darker blue again, and you're going to go sideways, even where it's light, because you can put the light over that. And you're going to go sideways, and you want to watch your picture. And I'm not using the whole.
Here's what I found.
Wow, what was that? That was Siri or Alexa or something. Interesting, we have other people in on this class. or AI anyway, artificial intelligence. We could use some of that. Or I could speak for myself. Okay, so I'm using again this edge, but I'm moving in on it. I'm not using the whole thing because it's not a big space. But I could also use it sideways if I wanted to. But right now I'm tilting it a little bit and I'm just going right up to the edge of the trees, maybe just leaving a hair of white there. And now I'm looking up at the picture and I'm seeing where it goes in, and then I'm taking it back out and I'm looking at where does that line, I want to keep my line sideways. And now I'm to the point where the waves are starting, and so I'm going to start going on an angle. And it doesn't have to be solid. And I'm going to go on an angle, and now I'm using the whole side because I've got this whole big thing here, and I'm going on the angle of the waves, and this will show later. And I'm going to bring it down to nothing here. So it comes in, I'm leaving space for the beach. And if you didn't, that's okay, you can fix it because it's pastel. All right. So I've got that in, and it doesn't have to be solid, but mine is more solid than that. Okay, now looking at the colors. If you have a darker blue than that in your Rembrandts, there's maybe a darker blue than that. No, that's not darker. That's one thing somebody asked about ordering individual pastels. And one thing that you start to do is ordering darks. I don't see a darker one in this set that I have. So you got to go with the darkest that you have. Oop, that's black. That's really dark. Don't want that. I do have another dark that's not but it's not real bright, but it does give me the depth I want. So that is something you're going to do. You're going to order real dark blues and purples. And at the end of the class, remind me, and I'll tell you about this one that I found recently, this purple that really helps a lot. So I hope I remember to do that. I'll put it right here. Okay. So if you have a darker, that's good to go in, but if you don't, we work with what we have right now, and your piece will be great. And I'm just streaking a little bit dark because I want that effect of the waves, and it's going to start building the waves. And so it's going sideways with the horizon here, and then it begins to go on an angle and more of an angle until we have our wave, which is going to be there. All right. Now I'm going to go with the cornflower blue, maybe a little of the cornflower blue, lightly, 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 and I'm going to drag it across the whole side of it. Now, yes, and you need to do it at an angle down here, and see how that works for you. And if it doesn't work dragging it across, then start making lines. Make some lines, but not everywhere. Not the whole thing. And you can see now that you're beginning to make waves. All right, now, I've studied waves a lot, trying to figure them out. Waves catch the light on the flat part above the break of the wave. Then if it's a white cap, then you have the white cap, and then it's darker, and then it gets lighter in front of it. So where you see the lighter stripes, that's a top of a wave, okay? This picture doesn't really have waves, but it has movement, and it turns into the wave at the shoreline. Doesn't really have white caps out further, but there is movement. So we're gonna work on getting that effect. If you start getting curly, if your lines get uneven, it's gonna look like the water is rougher than it is. And so you want the smooth. We're gonna smooth it out. All right, now we're gonna take our light blue and see that light streak out there towards the horizon. I'm gonna take my pastel sideways. It pretty much parallels the water line, the horizon line there. So I'm going to start close to, I'm going to make it flat, and I'm going to start at the shoreline, and I'm looking up and down and up and down, and now I'm just going to take it and move it across and try to make it straight. Oh, see, I can't do a straight line, so I have to do it more than once. Okay, now I'm going to turn it sideways like this, and I'm going to make some streaks across, and I'm dragging it, and you see how it has that water effect? And I'm dragging it with the same angles that I've already built. Okay, and as we get closer, it's lighter. And at the shoreline, it goes all the way up to the shore. And it even goes behind that streak, but not as heavy. Now, if you don't like what you did, you can go back in and fix it. So now I'm going to go back in with my cornflower blue and see if that's dark enough. No, I want to go back in with my dark blue, the one that you have. Okay, now you're going over it and you're beginning to refine it with the dark blue. Kind of sculpt around what you want it to do. And you go with the angle as it builds the angle. And there are areas where there's more light than dark, and so you're going to come back and forth with that. Now I'm going to get my light blue again, and I'm going to go back and redo. And you keep going back and forth until you get it the way you like it. Light touch, a light touch with this light. All of this. And really, it works a whole lot better if you just do one swipe. With the light. Just one swipe. My son Evan was at the epicenter of an earthquake this morning. He lives right by the airport in Utah, in Salt Lake City, 5.7. Things fell off their walls, crashed to the floor, dogs barked, baby cried. It was awful. So I'm glad we're doing this. Thoughts and prayers. All right. So my paper is doing this little weird waffle thing that I don't like. So I'm going to be going back and forth a little bit to even that out with my different colors, with my different blues. I'm not adding other colors yet. We will add colors. I'm all about color. And notice there's this lighter portion as we get closer, and it's not quite blue, is it? It's hard to see what color that is as we get closer to the shoreline, right down just above that, the wave that's not breaking. So whenever it gets like that, it's getting to be more of an earth color, and you'll be surprised to know that that will be more towards pinks and purples. Again, purple. So I am going to take that pink, that bright pink, and see what that does. Down here, real lightly. And I'm gonna bring it forward. And on top of that blue, of course, it becomes a purple. And we're gonna want this to be light down here. And already it's beginning to look like shoreline. Even though it's not the color that we want, it's going to look like shoreline. All right, am I ahead of you? A little bit? No? Are you with me? Yeah. Laura's with the baby, okay. All right. So now to get it to be a little more purple, I am going to use the purple, but we're going to tone it down in a minute. I am going to use the purple here, but we're going light to dark again. And I'll use it back here. And as long as I have the purple in my hand now, I'm going to go along this raggedy edge on its side and the wet sand and take it right into the water. And I might even take it, drag it a little bit in. Okay, and then along the edge back here until we don't see it anymore. Okay, and then the wet sand comes more and more part of the picture until just a little bit before the bottom of your paper. And really, we're gonna be using this purple a lot, but for right now, we'll just work on this part. How are we doing on time? 1:36. We're good. All right. So we will do this in 2 lessons, and next time we'll do the beach, and then we'll do our happy little trees, our Valiant tree, and then the mama tree to the left. Okay. So now I want to make my water lighter again. So I'm going to try different things. I'm dragging it lengthwise. This I would call that lengthwise across. And going back and forth. It might be more of a waviness than I want. And then down here, it's again that more solid where we have the pink and the purple. I'm putting the blue over it. But not solid, because look what the waves do. The waves make it ripple. So I do that with pressure. In and out, press and then pull back, press and then pull back. And then we have our shoreline, and I'm doing that now on an angle, And my angle is too much because now it looks like it's going downhill. So I can go back and fix that because it's pastel. Okay, so now I've got a lot of stuff happening here, and I'm going to pull it into what's happening there. So that it doesn't look all of a sudden like I've got something weird going on, which it does look like right now. So we're not going to use our hands to blend because that'll muddy it up. And I'm going over the pink and the purple here. And I'm doing it more up here on the edge because the shoreline is lighter. And I like that. I pushed a little harder up there. And I'm using the full quarter edge at the top. And I'm liking the effect. So I'm going to pull that effect out into the lake a little bit. And just work with these different areas until I get what I want. Do the same thing here, but now it's on more of an angle. Now, If you want to move to your Rembrandts, once you get your bottom layer on, you can do that because there are some different tones with the Rembrandts. Like this is a, it depends on the set that you have. This is more of a periwinkle. And we will get that wave in there pretty soon. Okay, now that to me has made it too blue at the bottom, and I need to get back to my earthier colors. I'm going to try peach. And I think that might be, well, might work. Kind of works. Peach. And while I have the peach in my hands, I'm going to bring it up over the purple a little bit. Just a little. Peach and purple. And while I have the peach in my hands, I'm going back now. And I'm going to put in that beach. And I'm going to try to draw a straight line. Almost a straight line. Look at that. So how do we make it a straight line? We go back in and clean it up. Now, edges, we want to stay away from sharp edges because then it gets towards too much perfection and then everything has to be like that. And it pulls the eye away too. We want blurry edges. And I will go back in with my peach. And with the corner, the little corner, I've got to steady my hand with my pinky and go in and just try to straighten that up. Peach Beach. I don't know about you guys, but as I get older, my hands aren't as steady as they once were. I really had that with my left hand, but not so much with my right, thank God. And so this is what happens. As you have a color in your hand, you go back and you try different things. And you say, oh, I like the way that works. So all of us now are working at our own speed on the water, working to find different effects. I'm going in with my dark blue again over the light, constant layering till we have it to the point that we like it. We're not worrying about the shoreline too much yet. We've got it blocked in, but. And now, interestingly, I'm going to take my darker blue on its side and see what that does. And it kind of smooths it out, because it is smooth water. So just back and forth. All right. I'm going over it with my light. And this is the process, you know, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Now, let's get this area without the wave. It's all kind of the same color. Let's find something that we like. So I kind of like, I don't know about you, I kind of like the peach over the purple and the pink. So I'm going to try that a little bit more. I'm going to go back in with my purple. And where the water is too, because it's all kind of the same thing. And again, it's on an angle, not too much, but it is on an angle. So there's my purple, and of course that's way too purple. And a little bit of the pink, and it's going to be way too pink, but we know that. But the pink is nice because it gives it a glow. Just very lightly. That pink glow. And while you have that pink, you might want to go back into your water and just in a few places, put in a little pink. Observe the lines or observe the angles of your marks. And then you might want to go back and with one of your other colors and break that up, what you just did a little bit. Okay. Now I've got my darker blue and I'm going over this, what we just did, because if you look, there are ripples of color coming down on an angle. I'm doing it very lightly with the broad side. And now I'm just going to be working back and forth in this area until I get the effect that I want. And I'm using the dark blue, the light blue, the pink, the purple, and the peach. I'm liking the light blue on top of all the other stuff that I put on now a lot. It's reflecting that sky. And it's giving you that nebulous color of the sand underneath the water and the sky reflecting on the top of the water. And that's why it's so hard to pinpoint what color that is. But now we've put the sand underneath. And when you put a little bit of real light blue on top of your sandy colors, which are your purple, your pink, and your peach, and then you finish it off with this light blue, very lightly, it gives you that wet water, wet sand with the sky reflecting off of it feeling. And if you want, you can go in on the wet sand with your fingers and paint, finger paint a little bit. Don't do it too much because we like all these different colors, but you can do that. And then you might want to go back in and redefine some of the darker blue ripples, but not much. Now, I would recommend everybody take a step away, or a step back, and look at your piece from a little bit of a distance. It's going to look different, and some things are going to show that you might want to fix. I see one thing that I want to fix. I want my beach to end up here more. So I brought this water into the wet sand too much. So I'm gonna go back in, as pretty as it is, and I'm gonna go back in and cut off that water. And look at what that did. Now we see that you think it's a mistake. And now we're getting this effect of the wet sand on the water. It's really pretty amazing. And I can't take credit for this. All I'm doing is trying different things. And it's like, whoa, isn't that interesting? And I'm using the peach. I'm probably not going to use the blue. And that's going to be the difference between the wet sand at the shoreline and the water that's actually coming up and leaving some water on the sand is that light blue. It gives us that reflecting the sky. So now I'm going to take my light blue and I'm going to work up to where we have that little tree stump, where the tree trunk is. And I'm going to look at how the waves are lapping. And I'm going to take my light blue and I'm going to define that just a little bit more, because then we're going to go in and put in the actual waves. Okay, now, it's time to put the waves in. And it is 1:49, just in time. Looking at the waves, they're not really white, but if we do use white on top of this, the blue will come through and you'll be fine. So I'm going to get my white, if I can find it. I cannot find my new pastel white, which means I'm going to have to use a different white. I prefer the new pastel because of the shape of the pastel, makes it easier to work with on a lot of these. So I'm going to have to see if I can, maybe I have a new pastel white here. I've got this, my computer's on a drawer, so sorry if I'm shaking out. Yeah, sugar. I can't remember. Oh, here are my whites. Yep, I got a new pastel white. Little tiny one. All right. So I'm going to take it's a little piece, and that's not a bad thing, as long as you can get your fingers to hold it. So notice that the waves way back, they're not white, but as they come closer, you can see them. They're almost pink back here. You could use a really light pink, but I'm going to use the white. And notice that it comes on an angle and it cuts through this purple up here. And I kind of have the purple in there, so I'm going to go on that angle. And I'm just going to draw a line right now and try to wiggle it a little bit as I'm drawing it. And again, it's not going to be perfect. Mother Nature isn't perfect. And then I see that there's something a little bigger right here. And it's all going on that angle, right? And then there's something a little smaller in front of a little bigger. And if I don't like it, I can take it out. That's why we love pastels. And then it cuts in here. And then, and it's too white, right? But we can fix that. I'm just giving it some shape right now. And now this big wave, it kind of curves. I'm looking up at my picture. It kind of curves and then it goes out and then it goes up. Well, it does a little thing here. It goes up and then there's no more white except maybe down here. And then down here, we're doing them all because we got the white in our hand right now. We can go back. Then down here, it starts a little bit of a ripple here and actually cuts through. It's not on the edge of the wet sand, so I might have to actually bring my wet sand up a little bit. Yeah, I don't like what I did there, so I'll go back. Okay, but we've got the idea sketched in. It's not the same, but you just want the effect. You want the effect of the waves. You want the effect of the trees. You don't have to do every tree. You don't have to do every leaf. You don't have to do every wave. You want the effect. All right, so now, I mean, I'm looking back away from this, and some people would say, there, I've got my waves, but no, it looks unfinished. And a school kid, yeah, sure. But you guys are artists. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my waves, and where it's a little thicker, I'm going to do a little scribble scrabble. If you want the thick one back here, you can actually do up and down a little bit. There. And that gives you the effect, and actually some blue shows through. It's not real even, and that's what we want. This back here, I'm going to have to clean that up. So I'm going to take my light blue, and I'm going to go in and clean that up. And you can cut in to your waves with your light blue if it's a little too much, or if the edge is not right, and you can cut under with your light blue as well. You want to make them irregular. Nothing in nature is regular, okay? This could turn into a nice little shoreline. I'm gonna, a little Nah. So play around with what's in front of you. Back here, this peach is really a great color to bring up to the water. Back here. And then as it gets closer, the beach gets darker. How are we doing? 155, okay.